Stoga, who will be leading us in the singing of O Canada today.
O Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all of us command. Patron race porter le pays, il sait porter la croix. Ton histoire est une épopée, tes plus brillants exploits. God keep our land glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Let the doors be opened, que l'on ouvre les portes. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Statements by members. Déclaration de député. The honourable member for Edmonton Strathcona.
Mr. Speaker, Canada is in a national housing emergency. Rents are skyrocketing, home ownership is slipping out of reach, and encampments are growing in every city. This didn't happen by accident, and it is not inevitable. It is the result of a government that has failed to act with the urgency and the scale that this crisis demands. Housing is a human right. We need to see public builders, real investment in nonprofit and co-op housing, strong tenant protections, Indigenous housing led by Indigenous communities, and homes people can actually afford. You know, the Liberals don't get it. Their budget offers only half of what the Prime Minister promised during the election, and they're delivering only a fraction of the 500,000 homes that they promised. Canadians need real leadership. Someone who will declare a national housing emergency, to mobilize resources, to protect renters, and to measure success by homes built and lives changed. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for West Vancouver, Sunshine Coast, Sea to Sky Country.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to honour the extraordinary life of Vi Roden, who recently passed away at the age of 102. A World War II veteran, mother, friend, and tireless community activist, Vi believed that if you see injustice, you must act, and she lived by that principle. In 1978, after learning of abuses in the women's prison system, she famously phoned the Attorney General at home and made it clear she would go to the press if action was not taken. He called back, listened, and a royal commission was launched, leading to meaningful reforms. In 1980, Vi raised the funds to establish British Columbia's first counseling centre for sexually abused children. That initiative grew into Act 2 Child and Family Services, now a $25.5 million nonprofit serving Vancouver and the Fraser Valley. Even in her later years, Vi never slowed down. At 101, she volunteered during the federal election campaign, as she had throughout her life making hundreds of calls because she believed participation mattered. The world needs more people like Vi Roden. May we honor her life by carrying her compassion forward.
The honourable member for Niagara South.
Mr. Speaker, if the government was really serious about building faster, it should start with opportunities already in front of it. I have one that is truly shovel-ready, restoring wharves 17 and 18 on the Welland Canal in Port Colborne. For more than 20 years, this critical infrastructure has sat broken. During that time, the City of Port Colborne, shipping companies, port authorities, and private investors have all been ready to move, but they're still waiting on the St. Lawrence Seaway and Transport Canada to act. Federal funding has already been partially committed. The Liberals talked a good story for over 10 years on this project, but failed to hit the finish line. In the meantime, we're waiting. Every year of delay costs us real economic opportunity. Restoring these wharves could create well-paying local jobs, strengthen domestic supply chains, and position Port Colborne as a strategic industrial hub while helping protect Canada's economic sovereignty. This project is shovel-ready. The partners are ready. The benefits are clear. It's time to pull the trigger and get the job done.
The Honourable Member for Quebec Centre. On January 1st, my friend and canoe camping companion, André Provencher, left us all too early after a courageous battle with cancer. Passionate about local news and an ardent defensor of Quebec culture, Mr. Provencher held management positions at TVA, Télé-Québec, and Cogeco. He also founded La Presse Télé, which produced several well-known series, including Les Parents, Les Chefs, and En Direct de l'Univers. He led it, of the daily newspapers Le Nouvelliste et Le Soleil, and presided over the creation of the Fonds Québec Culture. Passionate, honest, and loyal in both friendship and business, André had a knack for spotting talent and helping it flourish. On behalf of all the members of this House, I offer his partner Rachel and his sons Paul, Bruno, and Francois our deepest condolences.
The Honourable Member for Calgary-Crowfoot.
Mr. Speaker, 10 years ago, this government campaigned on a promise to run, quote, modest deficits of less than $10 billion to fund historic investments in infrastructure, unquote, and then let the budget balance itself. For 10 years, they ran increasing deficits, failed to build the infrastructure, ignored the promise, and claimed that all that really mattered was declining debt to GDP. In 2024, the then finance minister said that the then $42 billion deficit was a line she would not cross. Then she crossed the line and resigned when the deficit hit $60 billion. Last year, the Prime Minister ran as the guy who would finally rein in spending, reduce debt to GDP, and build at speeds not seen in decades. Today, the deficit is $80 billion, debt to GDP is rising, and nothing is being built. Canada's economy is under attack, and Canadians need their government to succeed. But a strong, sovereign, self-reliant, fiscally sustainable Canada can't be built out of recycled, broken, Liberal promises.
The Honourable Member for Alfred Pellant. Mr. Speaker, with Parliament back in session, Canada faces a new reality. The challenges ahead are clear. A world marked by the breakdown of the international order and economic pressures affecting our families, workers, and businesses. In face of this change, our government is choosing to act and not react. We are strengthening Canada from within by supporting our businesses and securing our supply chains. We are building a more resilient economy focused on innovation, energy, and diversified trade partnerships. A strong economy is fundamental to our sovereignty, our security, and to our ability to defend our values in a more unstable world. In this new year, we invite all parliamentarians to work together constructively. Canadians expect us to be united and focused on the national interest. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Oxford.
Mr. Speaker, despite our differences, one truth still unites Canadians: the strength, resilience, and the talent of our people. And Oxford is home to many of these superstars. From the hallways at Ingersoll District Collegiate, astronaut Jeremy Hansen is reaching beyond the stars as he looks to make history as the first Canadian to go to the moon. Ingersoll's Ella Shelton will be representing Team Canada at the for the women's hockey team at the Olympics in Italy. For them, it's more than just a milestone. It's more than just a personal celebration. It's about reflecting on our community and what we stand for. We work hard. We stand strong. We help one another. We innovate, we lead, and we create opportunities for others to succeed. Colleagues, join me in wishing Jeremy and Ella every success in the exciting weeks ahead, because we are proud of Canada and the best is yet to come.
Yeah!
The honourable member for Toronto St. Paul's.
Mr. Speaker, for many families across Canada, Alzheimer's is not an abstract illness. It's a daily reality, lived in small moments and carried by loved ones who show up with patience and care. January is Alzheimer's Awareness Month, a time to wear the forget-me-not as a symbol of hope and a time to recognize the more than 750,000 Canadians living with dementia and the millions of family members and caregivers who walk alongside them every day. Alzheimer's affects far more than memory. It touches relationships, independence, and dignity. I want to praise the vital work of the Alzheimer's Societies across Canada who provide support, education, and advocacy for people living with dementia and those who care for them. As our population ages, this issue will touch more than families. That's why awareness, research, and compassionate care matter now more than ever. To everyone living with Alzheimer's and to the caregivers and advocates beside them, we see you, we value you, and we will keep working to support you.
The honourable member for Wellington, Halton Hills North.
Mr. Speaker, Beijing's foreign interference is the biggest threat to the security of Canada. That's what the Prime Minister told Canadians last spring. Less than a year later, the Prime Minister has entered into a so-called strategic partnership with Beijing, yet we still have no foreign influence transparency registry. When the bill was being debated, the government said it hoped to have the registry up and running in 12 months ahead of a federal election. 19 months and one election later, and still no registry. Another election could pass without the protection of a registry. One wonders if the government delayed the registry till now to avoid offending Beijing's leadership. And for the same reason, Liberal MPs were told recently to cut their trip short to Taiwan. Canadians deserve a government that treats foreign interference seriously as a threat to our national security. The government needs to implement the Foreign Influence Transparency Registry now.
Hear, hear.
The honourable member for Jonquière. Mr. Speaker, a great poet whose work is not recorded in any collection, but rather in our landscapes, has left us. Henri Dorion was a geographer, toponymist, professor, diplomat, and architect of the Quiet Revolution. As the first president of the Commission de Toponymie du Québec, he made our Quebec territory known and even named it. He chaired the Commission d'études sur l'intégrité du territoire du Québec, the first major effort to define our borders in detail, a task that remains unfinished to this day. Henri Dorion distinguished himself internationally as Quebec's delegate to Mexico, Russia, and Ukraine, as well as chair of the United Nations Group of Experts on Geographical Names. On behalf of the Bloc Québécois, I would like to offer my sincere condolences to his four daughters and his loved ones. His memory will live on throughout our vast territory. Thank you.
L'honorable député.
The honourable member for Mount Royal.
On September 11th, 2001, I was in New York when terrorists attacked the World Trade Center. I saw the bravery and solidarity and shared the anguish firsthand. As a Canadian, I was incredibly proud of how we rose to the occasion to support our closest friend and ally. From the hospitality showed by the people of Gander, to fundraising campaigns to support the victims, to our government being the first one to suggest that NATO invoke Article 5, we were there for the United States. And as we have for generations, our troops bravely fought side by side with Americans in Afghanistan. More than 40,000 Canadians served in this conflict. 158 of our soldiers died and over 2,000 were injured. I know that members of this place will want to join me in extending our deepest respect and gratitude to the men and women who served. Canadians will never forget their sacrifice. Our American friends should not forget it either. Hear, hear.
The honourable member for Calgary Centre.
Hear, hear.
Mr. Speaker, announcements are easy. Organize a press conference and tell the hungry crowd of reporters all the great things you're going to do. Getting things done requires work. If this Liberal government were judged on its announcements, then this country would be riding a 10-year wave of success. Sadly, not so. For announcements to translate to results, economic activity and paychecks for Canadians, something has to get delivered. Over 10 years of not delivering has left Canada as the economic laggard of the developed world. Conservatives worked with the government to amend and pass Bill C-5, giving the Prime Minister incredible powers to approve projects quickly. What are the outcomes? No projects have been approved, and they haven't removed a single regulatory barrier. This smoke and mirrors show must end and action must begin. We've introduced a motion to pass the Canadian Sovereignty Act. Will the government work with us and agree to support our motion to repeal the Federal Industrial Carbon Tax and the Oil Tanker Moratorium Act?
Honourable Member for Vaudreuil. Mr. Speaker, next week, Canada will write a new page in its space history with the Artemis 3 mission. For the first time in more than 50 years, humans will leave Earth's orbit and head for the moon. This is an important moment not only for science, but for Canadians and all of humanity.
Artemis 2 represents the next great chapter in Canadian space exploration. Following in the footsteps of great Canadians like the late Marc Garneau, Roberta Bondar, Chris Hadfield, David Saint-Jacques, and so many more, and built on the unprecedented collaboration between NASA and the Canadian space engineers and scientists, Colonel Jeremy Hansen will break barriers by becoming the first Canadian and the first non-American to travel around our moon. On behalf of all members of this House and all Canadians, I wish Colonel Hansen and the Artemis 2 crew a safe journey and a successful mission. You carry the pride of everyone in this House and all Canadians with you. Godspeed.
The Honourable Member for Swift Current Grasslands Kindersley.
Mr. Speaker, Canada has the highest food price inflation in the G7. That's the Liberal record on full display for the whole world to see. But instead of fixing it, the Prime Minister raises taxes on fertilizer, manufacturing and transportation, all of which leads to higher food prices. Reversing Liberal policies that punish Canadian agriculture would be a good start. But we could also grow even more food here at home. Saskatchewan is already the breadbasket of the world, but there's still room for us to grow and expand the available farmland. Right now, there are shovel-ready irrigation projects waiting for approvals, like the ones around Lake Diefenbaker. The Westside Irrigation Rehabilitation Project alone would open up 100,000 acres of irrigated land to grow more food and specialty crops. Studies show this project will add $13 billion to our GDP, create 80,000 jobs, and generate over $1 billion in tax revenue. The Liberals have so much to learn from rural Canada. This is one of many promising resourceful projects that we want to build in Saskatchewan. And all the government needs to do is let our farmers and industry do what they've always done best and lead the way forward.
The Honourable Member for Trois-Rivières. Mr. Speaker, today I would like to highlight the exceptional work of the Organizing Committee for the 59th Quebec Games Finals held in my riding of Trois-Rivières, bringing together more than 3,500 athletes from across Quebec. They aimed to receive a donation of $1,000 to Excellence Sportive Mauricie, and thanks to tight and responsible management, $350,000 will ultimately be donated to promote sports in our region. The Games also generated nearly $29 million in economic spin-offs for the region. And above all, none of this would have been possible without the involvement of 2,318 volunteers. Their commitment was at the heart of these extraordinary games. In conclusion, I would like to issue a challenge to Blainville, and I wish you success in organizing the next games.
Supported the passage of Bill C-5, which gave the Prime Minister extraordinary authority to approve nation-building projects fast. The Prime Minister claimed that with these powers, the government would unleash our economic potential. He claimed that we would build at speeds not seen in generations. But sadly, the Prime Minister's promises are not reflected in reality. Canadians in the mining sector, the oil and gas sector, and others tell me that this Liberal government hasn't lifted a finger to make it easier to get permits and build projects. That's why Conservatives are calling for the passage of the Canada Sovereignty Act, which will remove barriers and cut red tape that is stopping these projects. We want the Prime Minister to live up to his promises. Conservatives are giving him the tools to get the job done. So why isn't he using it? The Prime Minister has no excuse. The time for fancy rhetoric is over. The time for action is now.
The Honourable Member for Etobicoke Lakeshore.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to celebrate the close and growing relationship between Ireland and Canada. Today, the Irish Minister for Culture, Communications and Sport, Patrick O'Donovan, and our Minister of Canadian Identity and Culture launched Canada-Ireland 180. This initiative, planned for 2027, will commemorate the 180th anniversary of the Great Famine Migration in 1847, when over 100,000 Irish people landed on our shores. Irish Canadians have become a core part of Canada's history, national identity, and culture. This initiative will celebrate that shared heritage through events, art, screen, and sport. Nothing grabs the heart more than creative storytelling, so the collaboration between screen industries in both countries will be moving. Special mention to the Canadian industry, which has a strong presence in my riding of Etobicoke Lakeshore. We will celebrate Gaelic sports, but the gloves might come off if we meet in the World Cup. But we will hug and toast each other after the competition, as family does. Sláinte, Mr.
Oral questions, questions orales, l'honorable.
The honourable member for Louis Saint Laurent, Akiawenrak. Mr. Speaker, the primary concern for all Canadian families is the cost of groceries, Mr. Speaker. Unfortunately, food inflation is hitting hard. 6.2%, the worst inflation in the G7. And one of the factors is the Liberal fuel tax, which costs families up to $1,000, according to the PBO. We Conservatives want to help families, want to work with the government. Is the government ready to abolish this Liberal tax to allow Canadian families to breathe? The Honourable Minister for Finance. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank my colleague for his question. We know that the Conservatives are allergic to good news. But let me remind them what we announced on Monday. On top of the new benefit for groceries and essential goods, $500 million for the Strategic Response Fund to help the country's logistics. We want to be able to grow more in Canada, more funding for food banks, a national strategy for food, better labelling laws. I hope the Conservatives will help us and unite with us on this matter. The Honourable Member for Louis Saint Laurent. Mr. Speaker, the issue is that the Minister is strong in rhetoric but not in results. 2 years ago, he was proud of assembling groceries, and what happened since? The worst food inflation in the G7. What he does doesn't work. That's why 2.2 million Canadians have to go to food banks. In Neuchâtel, on Boulevard Bastien, Amélie and Frédéric, there's been a 31% increase in food bank use. We need to directly help families. A good way to do that is by abolishing the Liberal gas tax. Will they do it for the good of all Canadians? The Honourable Minister for Finance. Mr. Speaker, my colleague is known for his rhetoric, but on this side of the House, we're known for action. On Monday, what we announced, Mr. Speaker, was a new benefit for groceries and essential goods. The Conservatives can laugh as much as they want, but 12 million Canadians will benefit at the end of the month because Canadian families, Mr. Speaker, expect responsible action in this House. Will the Conservatives rise to the challenge, and will they support the government to help Canadians?
The honourable member for Edmonton Gateway.
Mr. Speaker, Canada now has the worst record of food inflation in the entire G7, with grocery prices up 6%. That's an extra $1,000 per average family in Canada to buy groceries, and costs have doubled since this Prime Minister has taken office. That's twice the rate of food inflation than the United States, and over 2 million Canadians a month are having to go to food banks. But the Liberals continue to pile on with the cost with their industrial carbon tax and the fuel standard tax. When will they finally deliver real and permanent relief for Canadian families?
The Honourable Minister of Environment, Climate Change and Nature.
Mr. Speaker, you might want to know that the member for Battle River Crowfoot represents the second largest canola-producing riding in all of Alberta. The Advanced Biofuels Association of Canada says that the clean fuel regulations will create or preserve the average farm revenue by $60,000 That is money in the pockets of farmers in the member for Battle River Crowfoot's ridings. Why is he not standing up for the farmers in his ridings? Because we are.
The honourable member for Edmonton Gateway.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians have heard this all before. Band-aid solutions that the most Canadians won't even qualify for. Families need real action that actually lowers cost of food at the grocery store. Conservatives are ready to fast-track any legislation that will help deliver real results for Canadians. When will the Liberals get serious about tackling food inflation and introduce legislation to permanently scrap the industrial carbon tax and fuel standard tax that are driving up the cost for farmers, truckers, and every family trying to put food on the table?
Honorable Ministre des Finances.
Mr. Speaker, the Conservatives are good talkers, but they have a short memory, I can tell you, Mr. Speaker. Because on Monday, Canadians have noticed what's happening, Mr. Speaker, that they're going to have a rebate for grocery and essential. But in addition to that, and let me help them for the householder, so they don't forget to tell the constituent, there'll be $500 million from the Strategic Response Fund to strengthen food production in the country, immediate expensing for greenhouses, additional funding for food banks, a national food strategy, work toward a standard price unit. Mr. Speaker, instead of shouting in the House, they should get on board, support Canadians, and make this country.
The honourable member for Middlesex, London.
Inflation is up 6.2%, the highest in the G7, and grocery prices are rising twice as fast since this Prime Minister took office. Families will pay over $1,000 more this year just to eat. Farmers, truckers, and food processors have been clear. The Liberals' industrial carbon tax and their new fuel standards tax are driving up costs from field to fridge. Conservatives were ready to act. So will this Liberal government work with us to scrap these taxes, boost grocery competition, and cut red tape for our farmers?
Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
Mr. Speaker, all fall, these Conservatives across the aisle quoted Canada Food Banks time and time again in their litigation on the cost of food. And now when the government steps up to help 12 million families, Mr. Speaker, with up to $1,900 to pay for those very costs of food, they are fighting against it. Why can't these Conservative MPs listen to their constituents and get out of the way and help those very Canadians they claim to care about?
The honourable member for Middlesex, London.
Mr. Speaker, here's the cold, hard truth. If two parents work full-time and they make over $14.87 an hour, their families get nothing. That's right, you heard me. Most families won't even qualify for this rebate. So once again, the Liberals gaslight Canadians while we see 2.2 million visits to food banks every single month. Liberal taxes and policies are what's driving up the cost of food. Recycling their broken policy does nothing to lower it. So when will the government stop pretending that rebates will fix inflation and instead deal with the root cause?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
Mr. Speaker, these Conservatives like to talk about making life affordable, but every time Canadians ask for help and the government provides that help, whether it's through affordable childcare, which, by the way, Mr. Speaker, saves families up to $16,000 a year, or the school food program, which reaches families all across the country, or this new tax benefit that will help 12 million Canadians, they say, oh, that's not exactly the right thing. They have no answers, Mr. Speaker, not for their constituents, not for any Canadian.
L'honorable député de Belleuil-Chambly.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday the Prime Minister said that China had made commitments to remove tariffs on Quebec pork. The industry had never heard about that. They were surprised, but pleasantly so, and we understand. This morning, Antoine Trépanier tells us that this is simply not true. Mr. Speaker, you can't do that to someone. Create false hope. Can the government confirm that there is or there is no agreement on pork with China? The Honourable Minister for Foreign Affairs.
Speaker, the reality is nous continuons d'engager.
We continue to work with our partners, all members of the industry. with pork, beef, canola, agriculture as a whole. At the same time, we will continue to diversify our supply chain for our internal economy. That is in the national interest, and that is our plan on this side of the House. The Honourable Member for Belleau-Chambly. Pork, we just need something, even just a noise. But there isn't even an oink in the agreement. The Prime Minister is apparently the second coming of God. He said, I have a deal with China on pork. Will the government at least let us know, using the word pork, somewhere in their answer, to say that there is a priority being established to removing tariffs on pork? Because Quebecers are the biggest purchasers of electric cars, so we are interested in this deal. The Honourable Minister for Foreign Affairs. As I said, Mr. Speaker, we have had discussions with China on a number of sectors of our economy, including pork, including beef, including canola, and every single time we continue to say that we are working in Canada's interest. We want an agreeable agreement for our pork sector and our economy as a whole. That is our strategy on this side of the House. The Honourable Member for Belleau-Chambly. Well, an agreeable agreement is probably going to make the pigs very happy. In any case, the Prime Minister this morning, the Minister, spoke to Radio-Canada, saying that whilst we on the Bloc Québécois were fixated on history, they were fixated on the forests of Quebec. But up to now, what has the government done for Quebec forests apart from refusing the industry's proposal? Are they that bad in economy, as bad in economy as they are in Quebec's history? The Honourable Minister for Finance. Mr. Speaker, I can assure my colleague we are as good in the matter of economy than we are in the matter of history. And Mr. Speaker, what I can say is that we don't have to hear reminders from the Bloc Québécois. We are working with the forestry industry, and sometimes we don't remember something, but we have invested hundreds of millions to help the forestry industry, Mr. Speaker. People understand we have always been here for workers, we've always been here for the industry, and we'll always be here to defend the interest of Canada.
Member for Newmarket Aurora.
Mr. Speaker, there are critical statistics every member of Parliament must take seriously. We have 2.2 million visits at food banks every single month. Canada's food inflation is 6.2%, and that is double of the U.S. This year, it will cost $17,600 to feed a family. That is a national emergency we must take seriously, and Conservatives want to expedite a real solution. So we were asking, will this Liberal government immediately table legislation to cut taxes that punish those who bring food to our tables and boost competition in grocery chains?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Sport.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And to the member's question, not only do we take the statistics very seriously, we also take the recommendations of the organizations who are working to feed hungry Canadians extremely seriously. And the top recommendation for Food Banks Canada was to create a groceries and essentials benefit. Now, the Conservatives have a chance to support that motion and to vote in favour of this motion and help Canadians at the grocery store, Mr. Speaker. And we know, based on the research that's been done by independent agencies, that industrial carbon prices not only just have a negligible impact or zero impact, many of them actually help. So if the Conservatives want to help Canadians at the grocery store, they should vote in favour of the grocery and essentials benefit.
Honourable Member for Newmarket Aurora.
Mr. Speaker, the reality is they have tried this before and it only has made matters worse. Canada is a country full of farms and fields, and yet we are known as the food inflation capital of the G7. Shameful. Food inflation has doubled since 2019. This is a homegrown crisis caused by high taxes on farmers, truckers, and food processors, lack of competition in grocery chains, and reckless inflationary spending. So I ask again, will this Liberal government immediately cut taxes that punish those who put food on our tables and boost competition in grocery chains?
The Honourable Secretary of State.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Speaker, farmers know that the #1 cause of food inflation in Canada and globally is climate change, Mr. Speaker. And when they're listing off the products that are most affected by climate change, they often list lettuce, which is impacted by climate change in California, coffee, which is imported to Canada. We don't grow coffee here, and beef, which is impacted by climate change, Mr. Speaker. The Conservatives can continue to bury their heads in the sand and pretend that climate change doesn't exist, Mr. Speaker, but we are working with farmers to increase the number of domestic producers, Mr. Speaker. We're working to build more greenhouses so that Canadians can buy more Canadian food. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Haldimand Norfolk.
While the Prime Minister spends his time with the world elites, life at home is getting harder for Canadians, including families in Haldimand Norfolk. The 2026 food price report is alarming. This year, it will cost $17,600 to feed a family of 4, which is $1,000 more than it cost last year. The Prime Minister's industrial carbon tax and food standards tax are driving up the food prices. Will he scrap the taxes and bring down the cost of food for Canadians?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Seniors.
The National Institute on Aging's 4th annual report was just released, and it commends the actions this government is taking. They agree with us, and their data shows that reducing expenditures in one area can result in an overall reduction in hardship as money is freed up for other household needs. And that is why organizations like Food Banks Canada agrees that the groceries and essentials benefit will make a real difference in the lives of Canadians, helping them to afford baby formula, helping them to afford lettuce, helping them to afford coffee and toilet paper. Mr. Speaker, I do not understand why the Conservatives want to be obstructionists about feeding 12 million Canadians.
The honourable member for Haldimand Norfolk.
Mr. Speaker, the facts are clear. Statistics Canada shows that food inflation is up 6.2%. That's the highest in the G7. I remember as a university student putting food back on the shelf because I couldn't afford it. And I am so blessed today. But even recently, I didn't buy a package of meat because it cost 4 times more than I paid for it last year. Imagine what average Canadians who are working 2 jobs are going through, sacrificing every single day just to get by. Will these Liberals give Canadians a break and cut the industrial carbon tax and the fuel standards tax?
The Honourable Secretary of State.
Like many of my constituents in Esquimalt-Saanich-Sooke, I grew up in a single-parent household. I have a single mother, a handicapped sister, and making ends meet was really challenging. Mr. Speaker, it's families like those that we have in mind, like the ones that I grew up in, like the ones that exist in my riding, in that member's riding. Those are the ones that we want to feed. And Food Banks Canada is supporting what we're doing. Again, I don't understand why the Conservatives are opposed to feeding families.
The honourable member for Sarnia, Lambton, Bikidwanong.
Mr. Speaker, food inflation is up 6.2%, the highest in the G7. A family pays now more than $17,000 a year for food, and 2.2 million people every month are lined up at food banks, thanks to the Liberals' industrial carbon tax and fuel standard tax adding up to about 17 cents a litre, hitting farmers, truckers, and food prices. Conservatives are ready to fast-track legislation to reverse these devastating impacts. Will the Liberals immediately introduce a bill to eliminate the industrial carbon tax, the fuel standards tax, to boost grocery competition and cut red tape for our farmers?
The Honourable Minister for Women and Gender Equality.
Mr. Speaker, while the members opposite minimize our affordability plan, let's take an example of a young family of 4 this year. With supports like the Canada Groceries and Essentials Benefit, the Canada Child Benefit, affordable childcare, dental care, the National School Food Program, and the fact that we cut taxes for millions of Canadians, this family will save over $50,000 a year, Mr. Speaker. This is real affordability. So while the members opposite continue to obstruct Parliament, we're going to stand up for Canadians.
Good job.
Member for Sarnia, Lambton, Bikidwanong.
Mr. Speaker, these Liberals take thousands of dollars from Canadians. They return a pittance. Canadians are not fooled. Food prices in Canada are rising twice as fast as in the U.S. and twice as fast since the Prime Minister took office. Right. Grocery prices are up 5%, and his response to the cost of living crisis is to tell Canadians to sacrifice more. But Canadians have sacrificed enough. With the ever-increasing costs to eat and heat, there's little left for Canadians to give up. When will the government finally stop asking families to sacrifice and commit to legislation today to make life affordable for hardworking Canadians?
Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I don't understand how the Conservatives can look their constituents in the eye when all they do in this House is obstruct what we're doing and the progress that we're making. We cut taxes for 22 million Canadians. We're making the National School Food Program permanent. This is going to help 400,000 kids eat healthy eat healthy meals at school. And we're saving families $16,000 per year through the affordable childcare. Mr. Speaker, we're providing relief for 12 million Canadians through our Canada Groceries and Essentials benefit. This is going to make a real difference, especially for families in my riding of Mississauga-Streetsville. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for King Vaughan.
Mr. Speaker, seniors are choosing between medication and groceries. Food Banks Canada has reported 2.2 million visits in a single month. 8.3% are seniors, up from 6.8%. Food inflation is the highest in the G7. Canadians need our help. Conservatives have proposed real solutions. Eliminate the industrial carbon tax, eliminate the fuel standard tax, and cut red tape on farmers. Will the Prime Minister show compassion for Canadians and work with us to provide real relief, yes or no?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Seniors.
Unlike the Conservatives, our actions are compassionate. Our actions show compassion for seniors.
Hear, hear.
We increased OAS for seniors over 75 when they wanted to bring it down to below 65. We have protected OAS, ensuring that it's indexed to inflation, and we just guaranteed that low-income seniors will get the help that they need to fight rising food costs, something that we cannot control. But what we can control is helping families afford the food that they need with the Groceries and Essentials benefit. This will buy up to $950 more food for a single low-income senior.
The honourable member for Shefford. Mr. Speaker, there are new retirees who have not received their old age pensions for 9 months because of problems with the new Currem software. And yet yesterday, what did Liberals have to say to these people? Their leader replied that software problems just happens from time to time. He replied that it was a fear-mongering campaign. The Liberals were made aware of this problem in June by their own officials. And clearly, with answers like that, we understand that they have done absolutely nothing. When are they finally going to kick into gear?
Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My department is processing payments towards a better system. Delays have affected 0.2% of requests. The department is committed to dispersing the monies rapidly and efficiently. We are working tooth and nail to reduce these problems. If someone has issues accessing their old age security, we encourage them to contact Service Canada. The honourable member for Shefford. Mr. Speaker, if everything were fine, as the government leader said, we wouldn't have seniors who haven't received their pensions since last spring. We wouldn't have seniors who are receiving the wrong amounts and who are going to have their future benefits cut. This isn't fear-mongering, Mr. Speaker. These are real people with real warnings that the new system is causing them problems. And when the government causes problems, its job is to find solutions to these problems, not to say, well, these things happen. So when will the government finally take seniors' problems seriously? The Honourable Leader of the Government in the House. Of course, we take the situation eminently seriously, giving benefits to those who must receive them, and the government has modernised its system, which is good news. Its software, which was obsolete, that now allows seniors to access the system online, and a better system. Some people have been affected. That's too many, of course, but we ask these people to contact Service Canada, where we will solve the problem.
Honourable member for Parry Sound, Muskoka.
Mr. Speaker, between 2011 and 2021, home ownership among 30 to 34-year-olds fell from 60% to 52%. From 2019 to 2024, for every 100 adults added to the Canadian population, only 12 homes intended for ownership were built. That is less than half the rate of the earlier decades. So my question is, how does the Prime Minister expect young Canadians to ever buy their first home when his government keeps using the same old policies that haven't worked for the last 10 years?
Housing and infrastructure.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, the good news is that our government has brought forward the first-time homebuyers GST break, which is up to $50,000 off of their first home purchase for young Canadians. This is a new measure. It was stalled in the fall session by the opposition, unfortunately. We're ready to bring this forward, Mr. Speaker. We're ready to deliver affordability for young Canadians.
Here, here. Member for Parry Sound of Muskoka.
Well, Mr. Speaker, new home sales are down 45% in the GTA and 56% in Vancouver. And I'll tell you what, rebates don't matter to first-time home buyers if no homes are getting built. Nearly half of young Canadians are now considering leaving their home communities because they cannot afford to stay. So when will the minister listen to all the experts, the builders, the developers, the Conservatives, and remove the HST on all new homes under $1.3 million so that we can get builders building homes again?
Here, here.
Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, it starts with first-time home buyers and not obstructing bills that will deliver relief and affordability for young Canadians. That's number one. Number two, we have record annual construction in Calgary, in Montreal, in Edmonton, in Ottawa. We have housing starts that were solid last year, the 5th best year in Canadian history. We will continue to build on that work with Build Canada Homes, which we expect the opposition's support on.
That's right. Honourable Member for York Durham.
It's a new year, Mr. Speaker, but it's the same old story for Canadians trying to buy a home. They can't. The Missing Middle Initiative reported this week that while the vast majority of Gen Z and millennials want to buy a home, only about half can realize that goal. Home ownership for them has decreased from 60% to 52%. Their ambition to buy a home has turned into uncertainty, and that uncertainty has turned into defeat. Missing Middle proposed 10 solutions. Not one of them was the government's plan for another bureaucracy to build non-market homes. So why is the government's plan so different from what sensible experts are recommending?
Honourable Minister of Housing and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The good news is that we have Build Canada Homes starting up, one-stop shop for affordable housing and delivering housing for young Canadians in particular. Mr. Speaker, the opposition can support affordable housing. They've never done it before, but they can start now. They can start helping this government deliver affordability, whether that's new homes through Build Canada Homes or it's bringing down rents, which we're seeing rents drop across Canada for 30 straight months. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member for Langley Township, Fraser Heights.
The Prime Minister is not keeping his promise to young Canadians to help them buy their first home. In fact, according to the Missing Middle report, things are going in the wrong direction. Homeownership among 30-year-olds is at an all-time low. Less than half think they're ever going to own their own home, and housing starts aren't even keeping up with population growth. So here's an idea. We're feeling generous. Why doesn't the Prime Minister adopt our policies to cut bureaucracy so that homes get built and first-time Canadians can buy their first home? Thank you.
Great job.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Prime Minister.
I have a great idea to the member opposite. This government has put a series of measures in place to help support young Canadians getting into their first-time home, to be able to build more housing supply in this country, whether or not it's Build Canada Homes, whether or not it's removing the GST up to $50,000 for new home buyers buying their first home. The Conservatives obstruct at every single pass. So that member has to go back and ask his constituents and answer to his constituents why they are standing in the way of the progress this government is seeking to advance. There's important measures in C-15. They should get on board and actually get a part of the solution, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Côte-du-Sud, Rivière-du-Loup, Katascomic, Témiscouata. Mr. Speaker, the housing crisis being felt in the streets and homes of Quebec. Families are having to choose between rent and groceries. Young people are delaying their life plans because they can't afford an apartment. According to a Léger poll, 1 in 5 Quebec tenants struggled to pay rent last year. In Montreal, that figure is 1 in 4. This is not acceptable. After 10 years of this Liberal government, when will Quebecers have access to a truly affordable housing? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, over $1,800 will go to a family of 4 through our new Canada Groceries and Essentials benefit. This money will help families. It will help households make ends meet. We know the statistics. They are true. 1 in 5 households is having trouble with rent. This is why I am wondering, why are Conservatives blocking the work of Build Canada Homes? Why are they holding up our new Canada Groceries and Essentials benefit?
Member for Fleetwood Port Hills.
Mr. Speaker, communities across Canada want to feel safe in their neighborhood and confident their government is taking action to prevent crime, especially given the rise of extortion in BC Lower Mainland. Can the Minister update this House on measures our government is taking to counter extortion, support law enforcement, and ensure our communities feel safe?
Honourable Minister for Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, the rise in extortion in Surrey and the Lower Mainland is unacceptable, and I extend my support to the victims of extortion everywhere. This morning, I met with Premier Eby, and we committed to deploying up to 20 RCMP members to support law enforcement efforts. Mr. Speaker, we deployed 2 helicopters in the Surrey area, and in November, we announced $4 million in federal funding to bolster Surrey Police's efforts to tackle extortion threats. There are bills before this House, Mr. Speaker, that the opposition can support right now, like lawful access, to help us combat extortion in Canada.
The Honourable Member for Dufferin-Caledon.
For almost a year, Canada has endured an unprovoked economic attack by the United States and President Trump. Conservatives worked to fast-track Bill C-5 that was supposed to fast-track nation-building projects. Unfortunately, it hasn't fast-tracked anything. Not a single new project has been approved. Not a single shovel has gone into the ground. There is an alternative. The Conservative Sovereignty Act would repeal anti-development legislation. It would speed approvals. It would create economic opportunity for Canada. Businesses and provinces that invest will be rewarded. Why won't the Liberals support this bill so that we can lessen our dependence on the American?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Well, Mr. Speaker, it's good to see Conservatives finally coming around to the Liberal plan, which is precisely that, to diversify trade markets, to build our country up with Canadian steel, Canadian aluminum, Canadian ingenuity, Canadian know-how, and Canadian union men and women building our country together. The Conservatives' proposals were tested, had the ultimate test, a general election, Mr. Speaker. It didn't work. It didn't go so well. Canadians voted for the Prime Minister's plan to build Canada strong. That's what we're going to keep doing, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Dufferin-Caledon.
Mr. Speaker, what they promised in the election was that they were going to fast-track nation-building projects, and that's one of the reasons why Canadians voted for them. But unfortunately, they haven't actually fast-tracked anything. Not a single new nation-building project has been approved. Not a single shovel has gone in the ground for any of those projects. Bingo. We need a new approach. That's why the Canadian Sovereignty Act needs to be implemented. It will tear down the barriers to building these projects. It will create new economic opportunity and create thousands of good-paying jobs. I mean, they've stolen almost every single one of our policies. Why don't they steal this one for the benefit of Canadians?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, we have nation-building projects going on right across this country. I would refer the member to his own province of Ontario, where we are in major developments in the nuclear sector, where we'll be developing the Crawford nickel mine, where we are going to build, Mr. Speaker, the North America's very first high-speed rail network from Quebec City to Toronto. We are going to build in British Columbia, whether it's LNG or whether it's the Northwest Corridor or Silicums, Mr. Speaker. We are building this country. We're building it big. We're building it strong.
The Honourable Member for Ponoka-Didsbury.
This Liberal Prime Minister has broken his promise to Canadians.
He said he would build Canada strong, but in 8 months he hasn't approved a single new project. Instead, he's closing down agriculture research stations and firing scientists, including at the 120-year-old station in Lacombe. Conservatives introduced a motion this week to pass the Canadian Sovereignty Act. Will these Liberals vote for our legislation to repeal Liberal laws that block development, reward investment in Canada, protect Canadian innovation, or will they continue selling Canada out with their New World Order agenda?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Labour.
The Conservatives' ideas were tested in the election, and guess what? They lost, Mr. Speaker. And you know what? We're focused on something that's very clear, something that Canadians want. They want us to build this country. They want us to grow the economy, and that's exactly what we're doing, Mr. Speaker. We're going to build the largest infrastructure investment in Canadian history, with major projects across this country, building affordable homes for Canadians, using Canadian steel, Canadian lumber, and Canadian skilled trades, Canadian student workers, Mr. Speaker. We're diversifying our trade. We're expanding to new markets, investing in innovation. We're going to create the
Honourable Member for Ponoka Didsbury.
Mr. Speaker, Liberals never let solutions get in the way of their ideology. While this jet-setting Prime Minister travels the world to glad hand and talk about his New World Order, food prices are up and families are struggling to put food on the table. In the meantime, this government is closing the very agricultural research centres that allow Canadian farms and agribusinesses to be so innovative. When will the Liberals finally understand that when we learn more, grow more, build more, and export more, incomes go up and life becomes more affordable for Canadians?
The Honourable Minister of Agriculture and Agri-Food.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Look, Mr. Speaker, we know this is going to be a difficult time for some, but this was the mandate that Canadians elected us for, Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
Streamlining research, collaboration with academia and private sector, prioritizing high-impact areas, reducing duplication and aligning project with needs of farmers and ranchers across this country, Mr. Speaker. We're going to work with our stakeholders, Mr. Speaker, and move this industry and sector forward that has been neglected for over 20 years. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Elmwood Transcona.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians expect us to work together to improve their lives. In that spirit, we worked with the Liberals to pass Bill C-5, giving the Prime Minister sweeping powers to get projects built faster. Despite the press releases and photo ops, nothing has been built. When we build, Canadians get jobs, our economy grows, and life becomes more affordable. We have put forward a bill that repeals regulations that block development, rewards provinces who build, and protects Canadian innovation. Will the government work with us and pass the Canadian Sovereignty Act?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Financial Institutions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, that's their platform, not ours. On this side of the House, Mr. Speaker, we're focused on building one strong Canadian economy. Just Monday, Mr. Speaker, our Prime Minister announced a groceries and essentials benefit, putting $1,900 in the pockets of working families. On this side of the House, Mr. Speaker, we're going to continue to build Canada strong. We're going to continue to focus on our economy. They're focused on obstruction. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, well said.
The Honourable Member for Terra Nova, the Peninsula.
Mr. Speaker, when Canada builds more and exports more, incomes rise, our dollar gets stronger, and life becomes more affordable. One of the first things I voted for was to give these Liberals extensive powers to approve projects at speeds never seen before. But despite all those Liberal slogans, they have not removed any barriers. Not a single new project has been approved. When will this Liberal government work with Conservatives to build a country that all of us will be proud of and approve the Canadian Sovereignty Act to have an independent economy?
The Honourable Minister of Fisheries and Oceans.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And here we go again. Another round of just canned notes that doesn't address what this government is actually doing. It is another example of obstruction. I hear from this member's constituents. They support what government is doing. Building this country, investing in provinces, investing in rural communities, which this member represents. Stop the nonsense. Let's get to work. Canadians expect it. Newfoundlanders and Labradorians expect it.
The Honourable Member for Calgary Signal Hill.
Mr. Speaker, Conservatives voted for Bill C-5, but the Prime Minister's Major Projects Office has not approved any new projects. Worse, the Liberal mountain of anti-development laws is still in place. Mr. Speaker, when we build more and give Canadians jobs and opportunities, incomes and prosperity go up. Prime Minister, will your Liberal government support the Canadian Sovereignty Act to unleash development, protect Canadian innovation, and reward Canadians for building our country?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Natural Resources.
Well, Mr. Speaker, what can we say about this motion? It's a few things we're already doing, a few things Canadians rejected. Feels like the Leader of the Opposition found it in a jacket he hasn't worn in a while. It's time for some new ideas on this side. We've got some like the MOU with Alberta. It's an exciting time to be in Alberta. We're getting things built, and we invite the members opposite to get on board.
The Honourable Member for Kapuskasing, Timmins, Mushkegowuk.
Mr. Speaker, Northern Ontarians keep asking me, when will we finally unlock our economic potential? I reply, when this government finally decides to cut regulations. The Canadian Sovereignty Act is a chance to do exactly that. Repeal needless barriers. In Northern Ontario, economic sovereignty leads to affordability. When we grow our industries in mining, sawmills, pulp mills, agriculture and manufacture, income rise, affordability dies. I ask this government, will they work with us and deliver results for Canadians?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
Mr. Speaker, thank you to the Member of Parliament for advocacy for Northern Ontario, a topic I'm always happy to get up and talk about. As the member knows, we've been there for Northern Ontario in many difficult and challenging situations, most recently working with Cap Paper to support that mill as they reorient their product to product that will be sellable across the world. Mr. Speaker, we'll be there for Northern Ontario, whether it's through the capacity of FedNor or direct supports to the lumber industry or supports for critical mining. The Northern Ontario knows they have a strong partner in the federal government.
The Honourable Member for Chicoutimi-Le-Fjord. Mr. Speaker, the Liberals told us that they wanted to fast-track the construction of major projects. That is why we voted for Bill C-5. And yet today, absolutely nothing has changed. No barrier has been lifted. Bureaucracy is still stifling, and permitting still takes far too long. That is why Conservatives have proposed the Canadian Sovereignty Act, so that we can get more exported and get more built. Will the government vote in favour of our motion, or will it continue to hold back the economy? The Honourable Government House Leader. Mr. Speaker, these ideas were put to the test last year during a general election. During that election, the Prime Minister's plan to build Canada and build Canada strong won the day. The approach proposed by the member opposite was rejected, which I assume is news to them. I would like to reiterate for my honourable colleague that the Port of Saguenay is one project that we announced, as well as the Contrecoeur Port, which will be a major boon to Quebec's logistics and supply chains. The Honourable Member for Beauport-Limoilou. Mr. Speaker, January 17th was a historic moment for Canada. The Canadian government announced the launch of the Assault-Style Firearms Compensation Program in Montreal alongside representatives of the Quebec government. Quebec has a special role in Canada's public safety landscape due to, among other things, our history, our collective sensitivities, and our provincial legislative frameworks. Could the Secretary of State for Nature explain how Quebec-Ottawa partnership is essential for the success of both this program and our shared goals? The Honourable Secretary of State for Nature. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to thank my colleague for his question, which has to do with an issue very important to Quebecers and also to all Canadians. Canadians want this program to work. They want it to work well, and they want assault-style firearms off our streets. What will the Quebec Agreement do? It will allow Quebec to provide the assistance of the Sûreté du Québec to this program. And I would like to thank hunters and firearm owners across Canada who have signed up to the program so that these guns could be taken off our streets.
The Prime Minister wants to talk about the gap between rhetoric and reality. Well, last week, reality came in the form of 2 police cars in my driveway investigating a report of shots fired on my street. My neighbours are wondering if we're now in the line of fire of some extortionist. Wow. Surrey's Mayor Brenda Locke is asking this government to declare a state of emergency. Conservatives are asking, will this government stop with the rhetoric, restore mandatory minimums, and repeal their catch and release laws so criminals feel the consequences?
Here. The Honourable Secretary of State for Combating Crime.
Mr. Speaker, the Conservatives need to decide whether they're going to help us stop extortions or whether they're going to obstruct us giving law enforcement the tools they need in order to prevent these crimes from happening.
That's right.
Mr. Speaker, right now it takes about 6 months for police agencies to connect a phone number to an IP address or to a person, to a criminal, Mr. Speaker. But these Conservatives are against supporting our lawful access measures, which would give law enforcement these exact tools. Which side are they on, Mr. Speaker? I hope they vote with us when we put this bill to Parliament.
The Honourable Member for Vaughan Woodbridge.
York Region Police recently arrested a man accused of extorting a Vaughan resident for 7 years through threats and violence. Extortion is not a talking point. It's impacting real Canadians. Now Liberals are spreading falsehoods. Let's look at bail reform. The Liberals tabled bail changes October 23rd. We agreed to send the bill to committee on November 18th, and until yesterday, they sidelined public safety to attack freedom of expression. So, will the Liberal government stop their obstruction and work with Conservatives to restore mandatory minimums for extortion and repeal catch and release laws Bill C-5 and C-75?
Honourable Secretary of State for Combating Crime.
Mr. Speaker, we are talking about catching these criminals. In order to catch these criminals, the police need the tools to do so. They need to be able to connect IP addresses and phone numbers to the criminals, which the Conservatives are obstructing and stopping from passing in this House. We brought lawful access measures, Mr. Speaker, to this Parliament in June, yet they've been obstructing those measures all along. Whose side are they on? Will they help our law enforcement and police officers with catching these criminals, Mr. Speaker?
The Honourable Member for Elgin, St. Thomas, London South.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Federal Court of Appeal has once again affirmed that this Liberal government broke the most supreme law in this country, the Constitution, the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, when it wrongly used the Emergencies Act, and also that it violated the Charter rights of Canadians by freezing the bank accounts of political protesters and limiting the legal right to protest. If this truly is a new government, will they say to Canadians right now that they will accept this ruling, uphold the civil liberties of Canadians, and not appeal this to the Supreme Court?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, as a proud resident of the National Capital Region, I can only but lament this member's repeated, and I will give him this, he's been consistent on this, his repeated endorsement of the occupation of this downtown, of the disturbance and unbelievable annoyance that this created for residents of downtown Ottawa, and of the fact that it was an unlawful demonstration, Mr. Speaker, that ultimately was ended by the good graces and very Canadian model of cooperative law enforcement, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Peterborough.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On Monday, the Prime Minister announced new measures to put money back in the pockets of Canadians, including the Canada Groceries and Essentials benefit, which I know will mean a great deal to my constituents in Peterborough and Canadians across the country. It also included new measures to improve our domestic production and enhance food security in Canada. As a farmer, I can't stress enough just how important this is. Now more than ever, Canadians want food made and produced right here in Canada. Can the Minister of Agriculture please explain what Monday's announcement will mean for our producers and for security in Canada?
The Honourable Minister of Agriculture and Agri-Food.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I appreciate my honourable colleague's question.
She gets it as a farmer, Mr. Speaker. Canadians want access to Canadian-grown food, and our world-class farmers, producers, and ranchers are ready to deliver. On Monday, our new government announced immediate expensum for greenhouse buildings. This will allow producers to fully write off greenhouses that become available for use before 2030. We are developing a national food security strategy, investing $20 million into a local food infrastructure fund, and much more. Simply put, Mr. Speaker, we're improving affordability for more than 12 million Canadians and building a more domestic, resilient food system here at home. I hope the Conservatives can agree.
The honourable member for Cowichan, Malahat, Langford.
Mr. Speaker, forestry families on Vancouver Island are struggling. The Crofton Mill closed, the Atlee Mill closed, Chemainus Mill curtailed to the end of 2026. Hundreds and hundreds of jobs are lost, but more importantly, already struggling families are now facing dire consequences. This government's handouts and subsidies are not helping those affected and will not save this critical and renewable resource industry. When will the Prime Minister deliver on his promised softwood lumber trade deal?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Natural Resources.
The closure of a mill is a difficult news, whether it's on Vancouver Island or all across the country. It's a difficult news for workers, their family, and the community. The federal government has come forward with support for the sector. We urge the provincial government to work with us as partner to protect these jobs.
I've been putting up with a lot of loud noise coming from my left, but I had to call it out now because I'm having trouble hearing the honourable member. So the honourable member from the top, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We really, it's a difficult news, the closure of any mills, whether it's on Vancouver Island or anywhere in the country. And we've come forward with a lot of support from a financial perspective. We work with the provincial government as partner to protect these. And they may have missed the news that we announced a forest sector transformation task force by the industry. They've already met, and they're formulating recommendations for the government for the future. We will continue to examine every option available. I urge the member to work with us on those.
The honourable member for Saanich Gulf Islands.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And my question is to the Honourable President of the Treasury Board. With massive cuts being made to our civil service, how can the government justify threats to public health and safety as outlined today by the Public Service Alliance of Canada? Specifically in my community, we're very concerned as across a number of departments, believe it or not, workers involved in marine emergency response to oil spills have all been laid off. How does the government justify this?
The Honourable President of the Treasury Board.
Mr. Le President, I thank my honourable colleague for her question. Canada's new government is taking a responsible approach to renewing the public service, focused on efficiency, sustainability, and respect for those who serve Canadians. New incentives are being introduced to support workforce renewals and to manage adjustments primarily through voluntary measures. Budget 2025 also proposes a measured reduction in up to 1,000 executive positions over the next 2 years to ensure leadership structure remain aligned with operational needs. Thank you.
I wish to draw the attention of members to the presence in the gallery of the Honourable Miles McDougall, Minister of Advanced Education for Alberta. I believe the member for Kamloops, Thompson Nicola, has a point of order.
Just gonna wait till it calms down.
Yeah. Okay.
Mr. Speaker, there have been discussions among the parties, and if you seek it, I believe you will find. I'm going to start again, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, there have been discussions among the parties, and if you seek it, I believe you will find unanimous consent to adopt the following motion. that, notwithstanding the order made Wednesday, December 3rd, 2025, Bill C-225, an act to amend the Criminal Code, be withdrawn from the Standing Committee on Justice and Human Rights and referred to the Standing Committee on the Status of Women.
All those opposed to the honourable member moving the motion will please say nay. Agreed. The House has heard the terms of the motion. All those opposed to the motion will please say nay. Carried. 3:15, the House will now proceed to the taking of the deferred recorded division on the motion of Mrs. Stubbs relating to the business of supply. Convoquer les députés.
Call in the members.
La question est la suivante.
The question is as follows.
Seconded by Mrs. Anstey, moved that in the interest of restoring Canadian economic sovereignty, the House call on the government to immediately introduce a Canada dispense? No? Okay. Immediately introduce a Canada Sovereignty Act that A, reestablishes Canada as a competitive resource-producing nation by repealing federal measures that block or penalize development, including 1, the Impact Assessment Act, formerly Bill C-69, 2, the Oil Tanker Moratorium Act, formerly Bill C-48, the Federal Industrial Carbon Tax, 3, 4, the Oil and Gas Emissions Cap, 5, the Federal Electric Vehicle Sales Mandate, 6, the Federal Plastics Manufacturing Prohibition, 7, federal regulatory restrictions that impede communication and advocacy by Canadian energy companies. B, reward provinces, businesses, and workers who build and invest in Canada by 1, introducing a Canada First reinvestment tax cut to spur domestic industrial activity. 2, providing free trade bonuses to provincial governments that remove internal trade barriers and fully open